hi-fi has changed, Ed. It's changed a lot from when we first were interested in it. You know, a separate turntable and a separate tuner, and then you had your amplifier and your speakers and so on. And a lot of that still exists, but a lot of it has integrated into all-in-ones, and streaming is now a huge part of it. So where are we in 2022?
We are in the middle of things, ironically, pushing back slightly from an extreme position we were in going into in the before the pandemic kicked off. If you'd asked me this question in 2019, I mean, a great sound for £1,000. At that point, all-in-one systems, be they all-in-one systems that you added speakers to, or just complete systems with speakers on board, had pretty much all the answers, because conventional hi-fi separates were getting more expensive. Essentially they did more. They had a level of performance that separate units didn't really have much in the way of an answer to, and part of that was because they simply cost more to make, because they had fairly substantial amounts of metalwork on them. Now, over the course of the last few weeks, I have been testing bits of equipment which are, if you like, redressing this balance. The first and most important thing that hi-fi equipment has been doing is it's been getting smaller. So rather than you paying for 430 mils of sheet steel, equipment is now very, very small. Case in point, I have already reviewed a number of the IFI Zen products for AVForums. The reviews are up on the site. You can read them at your leisure. Those are already pretty competitively priced, but I have now got a complete box of the Zen Air units, where effectively they are very, very similar to the Zen Mark IIs that I've reviewed some product for, but they've ditched the metal casework. They're in a sort of plastic case, but they are under £100 a pop. And all of a sudden, where a couple of years ago I'd have said, if you've got £1,000, concentrate your resources, go all in one, you can still do that and they will still sound extremely good. It's not like that market's going backwards. There's still technical progression there, but separates have updated and evolved to be relevant again for £1,000. And if you look at things like the Ragus System 1, which I reviewed, now that's £1,200, but it does include a pair of speakers which are relatively expensive. I have a system from Project which is aimed squarely at the Ragus System 1 here on test at the moment. Now again, that's £1,500, but that includes, again, a proportionally expensive turntable. Where the action is now is these smaller, more compact separate systems, where they are effectively relying on your computer, your television, or your phone to be your access point to content, and they simply get on with decoding it and making noise, and they're extremely good at it. If you can stomach the fact that it will be a little selection of boxes, they have a sort of children's activity flavor to them, these systems, but more often than not, because if you go outside of one manufacturer, you end up with a medley of slightly different sized boxes. There are aesthetic issues which I believe we may need to address as I review these products singly, but nevertheless, post-pandemic, if I wanted to assemble £1,000 system that did the things that I wanted it to do as well as it could be done, I'd be back looking at separates again. And astonishingly, it can still, if you are demented, include vinyl in that as well. I mean, my recommendation really remains, if you are thinking about getting into vinyl in 2022, don't. It's an extremely expensive and destructive habit. And, it's predicated around you having an existing collection of them, because essentially buying a turntable for X £100 and then records at £25 a pop is poor maths. So you can choose vinyl, you can make that decision if you want, but if you are simply making use of, I mean, there's been questions in the thread this evening about Apple Music, and it's unfortunately, guys, I don't have an Apple TV, so I can't tell you off the top of my head about the behavior with Atmos, but I will certainly do my best to find out for you. But again, Apple TVs, even your phone, if you've got an iPhone or an iPad with Apple Music, it is a sensational platform. It sounds every bit as good as Qobuz, which is my favorite piece of streaming software, because it's very flexible and it's very clever. But if you're just using an iPhone or an iPad, just Apple Music is absolutely brilliant. So your budget can be condensed into a smaller number of units, and they will do an outstanding job. And if you want something more aesthetically elegant, there's still plenty of mileage in the wireless speaker front. I mean, the Bowers & Wilkins Zeppelin, which I reviewed a little while back, it's huge. The shape is not particularly space friendly in my considered opinion, but it's hard to argue with the fact that it sounds extremely good indeed. And since I've tested it, Bowers & Wilkins has actually gone and significantly beefed up the streaming interface as well. So it's much better to use than it was. So you've got lots of options, but whereas 3 years ago, I'd have said something like the Zeppelin, go for that. That's the sensible way forward. Separates have managed to work out how to stay relevant, how to stay competitive. And I would now, if you don't mind it having more plugs and being a bit fiddlier to get going in the first place, the best level of performance your £1,000 will give you would be back with Separates equipment.
It's interesting that we've come full circle on that one. If this is a subject you're interested in, do you want to know more about hi-fi this year? Is it something you're interested in? Do you want to buy it, but you've only got £1,000 to spend? Let us know, and we'll certainly deep dive into these subjects for you. And that can go for anything, not just hi-fi, anything where you want a bit of advice, or you're putting systems together or whatever. Obviously, we play with the kit all the time.
Just something that I'll throw in, because it's an editorial item, and Phil has been very even-handed on this and has generally let me just crack on. I have a constant conflict, for want of a better word. There are people that want me to do lots of affordable things. There are other people that want me to do fantasy football things. I try and strike a balance between both sets of components. It's important to stress that hi-fi is getting more expensive. All things are getting more expensive. I take it those of you that have been outside and bought anything in a shop will have noticed that. So there are preconceived ideas about how much certain things should cost, and those aren't necessarily accurate. I'm trying to balance things like the Zen Airs and the Project System with, there's another pair of Sonos Fabers going through. They are an absolutely bargain, £3,998. I'm trying to strike the balance and keep everybody happy. If you genuinely feel I have got it wrong, then make your feelings known. I have to say that in terms of the amount of affordable equipment on the market to test, we cannot solely function on affordable equipment. There has to be some stuff which is rather more significantly priced just for the basis of coverage. I was asked very quickly before I sign off on this, I was asked by Moadib, have I listened to the new Kef Tower wireless speakers, the LS60? I haven't. There is one review set of LS60s. I can only assume they're quite good because they aren't making their way through the reviewers very fast. Make of that what you will. But no, I have asked for them and the LSX2s. So I will, as soon as I have access to them, I will endeavour to provide you with review copy for both.